G'day folks, thanks for joining me for Let's Read Druthers. Hope you like the new setup. I have a 4K HD camera here, so I figured why the heck not start using it for the channel instead of this crummy old, I don't know why I did that, but just to demonstrate the frame rate is just horrible on this thing, on the laptop camera. This time we're going to do Absurdity Observer. And then next time we'll do Good News Tidbits. So I said last time that I would show you the cartoon. And I don't know if this corner is kind of dark where I set up the camera. There you go. For anybody that can't see it, it's an octopus that represents the government. And it's both your best friend and your worst enemy, because it's saying, "We are here to help our citizens," providing a life preserver while also popping the boat at the same time. Doesn't that sum it up nicely? Everything to do with government is absurd, but let's read the Absurdity Observer and see what is going on in the world as far as the crazy, absurd things that are going on. So, I think I mentioned this before in a previous video. I don't know on what topic, but I did say that we were gonna, I think it was another Absurdity Observer, we were gonna start reading something other than Druthers. So far on the Let's Read series, we've only read Druthers. For anybody that's not familiar with Druthers, I am not affiliated with them whatsoever. I have to say this every time, but it's true. They're not paying me for this. This is not a paid promotion. I'm just a huge fan, and I will vouch for and stand up for and support anybody that advocates for truth, love, and freedom. These are three things that I hold dear, that are close to my heart, and I hope they are on yours as well, because they're important. There's not much more important than truth, love, and freedom in this world, quite honestly. I could think of a few more, but without those, we don't have a leg to stand on, folks. Let's be honest here. For anybody that's not familiar with it, Druthers is a free publication. Alt media, I guess you could say. But it is entirely free. You just have to pay for the shipping. You can have it sent to your entire neighborhood if you want, which is really cool. This is issue number 31, June 2023. And again, we're reading the Absurdity Observer, which is on the back, usually, of the paper. The subheader is some of the most absurd things that have happened in recent weeks. So let's go through this here and see what kind of crazy stuff's going on. Number one, the UK announced plans to mandate farmers to feed their cows red seaweed based on methane blockers to stop them from farting and burping. I had to read that a few times now and do a double take. Oh, here we go. This is why. The project, funded by Bill Gates, because, you know, he's an expert when it comes to farming and vaccines and technology and everything now, apparently. When you have money, you become an expert in everything. Anyway, this project is funded by Bill Gates and aims to kill microbes in the cow's stomachs to prevent methane emissions. Because they're still trying to push this false claim that cow farts are the reason why we have climate change, global warming, right? It's all cow farts. It has nothing to do with these giant manufacturing plants that are pumping out emissions every day in 100 smokestacks going up in the sky. It has nothing to do with those, right? It's all placed, the blame is always placed on the consumer because, oh well, people are buying it, I guess there's a need there, it's all just supply and demand, right? Bullshit. The onus doesn't always fall on the consumer. I would say some things, yes, they exist because the consumer wants them. There's no denying that. But the climate change, you know, I'm not going to get into my views on whether it's a thing or whether it's not, or whether it's been hyped up or whether it hasn't, or whether it's a common trend that the Earth goes through, it heats up and it cools down like we've seen, and whether humans are speeding up the process or not. Let's not get into that. debate, but there's bigger factors than cow farts here, right? Cow farts and burps. Yes, there are an insane amount of cows in the world, and they're being all penned up together in a very unnatural way, and I'm sure that has a detrimental effect on the atmosphere and on the earth and etc. We know it does. But there are bigger fish here, right? There's a bigger problem, which is the consumerism itself, which is not addressed here whatsoever by Bill Gates's, which I would think he has some hidden agenda there for why he's doing this. It's not humanitarian effort. It's not philanthropy. He has a hidden agenda for why he's pushing these things. But it's not blocking the methane with red seaweed, or it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't address the issue. Let's just move on. Bill Gates, you piss me off. Vancouver cancels Canada Day fireworks. Yes, I remember hearing about this. Vancouver cancels Canada Day fireworks and renames Canada Day to Canada Together, a culturally sensitive rebrand of prior Canada Day celebrations. Let me just pause before I finish reading this. Canada Day, to begin with, as much as I enjoy the holiday, it's not something that I am 100% behind anyway, because really when you're saying Canada Day, is it a day to really celebrate the people or the land? Or is it some stock holiday that Canada Inc. has put there, to try to appear to be nice? Canada, what I'm trying to say here, I'll just speak bluntly. Canada Day was already bullshit. Now you're going to make it Canada Together, which we can see right through that. It's taking away from the individual again and trying to reinforce this collective identity. It's very clear here. Canada Day becomes Canada Together. It's not even Canada Together Day. It's just Canada Together. So again, kind of like the first bullet here, makes no sense. Why would you waste time and resources on this? Maybe this is why they're always broke. I always ask this question on the channel. Why is it that they take so much of our money, but yet they're always broke? It reminds me of George Carlin's bit on God and why, the church is always hungry for more money. It's like all powerful, all knowing, but just can't handle money. It's kind of the same idea. You're this powerful force, this authority over us, and you take whatever you want of the fruits of our labor, but you just never have enough. And what do we get for that robbery? What do we get for having our property taken away? We get some pretty crappy services, cold, clinical, unfeeling, quite honestly disgusting public services. I say this all the time to friends and family. If I'm going to pay for health care, okay, especially a lot of my US friends will say, oh, it must be so nice to have that paid health care. But really, it's garbage. For example, if one of my family members was sick, I would rather pay for a good service than to use a public service. I'll do everything I can to avoid the public anything now, because I've come to realize what they are and what they represent, and it's not good. They're not good services. I want the best for my family. I will not settle for anything less. So take what you will from me, but when it comes time to use the service of my choice, it sure as hell ain't gonna be a public service, because they're not good. Anyway, let's finish reading this bullet. So they they're trying to rebrand it to culturally sensitive, which is just it's just more drivel. Calgary, Toronto, and other Canadian cities are also planning to rebrand or scale back Canada Day celebrations, in some cases arguing that such patriotic displays are offensive to minority groups. Well, then what are they doing here? Or that they no longer have the funds to celebrate as they've traditionally done for the past 100 or so years. So, again, to my point, Now you can't afford the fireworks? Where's all the money going, right? Why is no one asking this question? What the fuck are you doing with our money? Plain and simple, right? I've had this conversation with my township when they come looking for property taxes. First of all, show me what you want me to pay for. Show me the proposed service that you're offering, because let's not forget what they are. They're a corporation. They get by with your funds, with your money, with your business, right? You have to understand the law of the sea versus the law of the land. What are you giving me for this amount of money? Which, quite honestly, you're asking a lot, right? Our property taxes here, first of all, they're not my property tax. I need to change the way I think and say these things. What they call property tax, which is a huge fraud, as far as I'm concerned, and in reality, it's a massive system of fraud and manipulation and coercion and threats and violence. What am I getting for that? $3,000 they want from me every year. $3,000 for what? What are you bringing to the table? I'm taking on all the risks, and I'm not getting all of the benefits. You're getting some of the benefits, but what risks are you taking on? What services are you bringing to me for this $3,000, right? And when I had a conversation with the treasurer here at the township and basically explained to her, there are certain services that we want out of convenience. Garbage pickup. We want you to plow the roads. Off the top of my head, I can't think of too many other ones, to be honest. But we all know that's not where property taxes go. And they want us to pay for provincial education in the public schools when that has nothing to do with anything at the municipal level, first of all. And we homeschool our kids. So why the hell are we going to fund a system, quite honestly, that we're completely against? You're going to force us with the threat of violence to fund these public indoctrination stations? No. I don't think so. Find another sucker, because that ain't me. Anyway, the reason I bring all this up is it's just a big farce. This is more nonsense right here of that now they don't even have enough money for fireworks on Canada Day, you know? Try and pull that off in the United States and see how well that goes, because they like their Independence Day. I happen to know a lot of folks that look forward to that holiday every year, and if I was in the U.S., I would be looking forward to it too. Tell them they don't have the budget for fireworks; they'll go and get their own. You know, it's just anyway. I'm gonna say this for every single one, but it's just ridiculous. Where's the money going? Where's the freaking money? Nobody's asking. They got their cards held against their chest and they don't want to reveal it to anybody. But guess what? We're your boss. You're not telling the boss where the budget money's going. You stole all the petty cash. Where did it go? You didn't even go out to lunch. You didn't bring us out to lunch. Nothing. Anyway, remember where you are on the totem pole of authority. Because you're not down here. You're not at the bottom. That's where they want you to think you are. Anyway, next one here. COVID outbreak at the CDC. Oh, there's been a COVID outbreak at the CDC. How on earth would that happen? CDC opens probe after dozens of fully vaccinated and double to quadruple boosted attendees test positive following the CDC's annual conference. It's almost like they lied. And it doesn't infer immunity. And it doesn't prevent transmission. Moving on. Study finds that hospitals were killing COVID patients with ventilators. Ooh, yeah, I remember that. While critical care doctors like Dr. Cameron Kyle Siddell were sounding the alarm in March 2020 about the dangers of using ventilators on COVID patients, a large cohort study has finally brought this issue to light. The study, published April 27th to the Journal of Clinical Investigations, Gao et al., found that most COVID patients who died did not die of COVID or the associated cytokine storm, but instead died of ventilator-associated pneumonia, or VAP. VAP. Wow. That all makes sense because I remember seeing a statistic whenever COVID first became a thing, and they were saying that your odds of coming back home if you get put on a ventilator are next to nil. So that would explain why. Basically, at the time, this was 2020 when this was all happening, they were basically saying that if you get COVID and then you get sick to the point where you need a ventilator, you're probably not going to recover. And this is part of why, is they were getting pneumonia from these machines. Unreal. So many people died unnecessarily throughout this thing. It's still, there's still casualties. I mean, we're probably going to see casualties from this for generations and generations to come. The implications are so far reaching. The establishment's leading infectious diseases expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, admits to the New York Times that something went wrong with the U.S.'s COVID response. Something went wrong. I can't put my finger on what it is. We are the richest country in the world, and on a per capita basis, we've done worse than virtually all other countries. Maybe because you were the asshole that was at the head of that on the medical side, giving people bullshit information. And that your hands are dirty from all this and from the stuff you've done in the past. Maybe that has something to do with it. The United States experienced 9 times more COVID deaths per capita when compared to India, despite India having fewer vaccinated people per capita, and 10 times more deaths were compared to Africa. A whole continent didn't have as many deaths per capita as the United States. Hello, what the F is going on? You know, there's so many things I could say here, but in the interest of time, let's just keep going. That kind of spoke for itself in a way. An Ontario high school student was arrested for coming to class after declaring that there are only 2 genders. 16-year-old Josh Alexander was suspended last November over comments made about gender in a class discussion and was told he couldn't return to class until he recanted. Don't have an opinion, Josh. What are you thinking? Recently, Alexander returned to class without recanting his statement and was promptly arrested and charged with trespassing. Holy smokes. I have to share a small story. For a few years, for 2 years, it felt like an eternity. We had some really bad neighbors, and they genuinely trespassed on multiple occasions, and the cops wouldn't do anything. And here you have a poor kid who's basically going to school in protest, voluntarily putting himself, a 16-year-old, voluntarily putting himself in school when he doesn't have to or he shouldn't. He's doing it anyway out of protest, and he gets arrested and charged with trespassing. It's a backwards, topsy-turvy world. Over 300 minors found working at McDonald's franchises and U.S. Department of Labor fines. Oh, yeah. I heard the children were between the ages of 10 to 13 years old. 300 minors found working at McDonald's franchises in the U.S. In the U.S. This is becoming more and more of a thing. It's actually been green-lighted in Canada where minors can work in certain places now because it's fine, right? Trudeau says it's fine. It's fine if a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old in certain cases neglects their studies because they have a part-time job or they're stocking shelves at night. It's fine. I don't go there often, but when I last went to get a drink or a milkshake or something, the girl couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 at the drive-thru, I swear. So it's definitely a thing. In one of the most grotesque votes ever taken in the Australian Senate, the majority of senators voted not to investigate the unexplained non-COVID excess deaths that have occurred since the rollout of the COVID-19 shots. In 2022, Australia experienced the highest number of excess deaths since World War II. Since World War II. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. The CDC bankrolled the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or ACOG, to the tune of $11 million to promote COVID-19 vaccination as safe and effective for pregnant women, according to documents obtained by attorney Maggie Thorpe through a FOIA request. $11 million of your money to promote the safe and effective nature of a vaccination program that was anything but safe or effective or even a vaccine. So those are the kind of things they do with the money that we were wondering earlier. Where does all the money go? There, that's where it goes. Perfect example. Google has renewed its multi-$100 million partnership with the World Health Organization to provide what it calls factual information on Google searches. Is that where they come from, those facts? The partnership aims to combat the spread of medical misinformation. Misinformation. You know how that goes. Google searches knowledge panels found at the top of results will use information verified by the World Health Organization. Big surprise. Over the past 2 years, Google has awarded the WHO $370 million in ad grants to help spread factual medical information. It's a lot of money. I'm sure the WHO graciously accepted. Right? Here's another one on the WHO. In a supposed effort to prepare for the next pandemic, the World Health Organization has drafted an agenda titled Zero Draft Pandemic Treaty. Zero Draft Pandemic Treaty that aims to transform them from an advisory organization to a controlling international authority in the event of a pandemic. So we kind of knew that was their agenda. Now they're flat out saying it. That's exactly what they're doing. So the next one should be pretty interesting. And you know it's coming. Reverse ATMs are now popping up in locations across Canada. First piloted in Toronto in late 2020 as a way to exchange funds in a safe way during COVID, the machine take cash and turn it into a prepaid debit or credit card. So, if it's not already clear that they're trying to get rid of cash money, which, okay, I have mixed feelings about that because fiat currency is garbage anyway. It's bullshit, but now they're trying to take away what little cash there is in the supply and replace it with other forms of nonsense. From paper money that's nonsense to now prepaid debit and credit cards, which are equally, if not more, nonsensical than fiat currency. So it's all based, and predicated on the same, system of tyranny, essentially. So here's one point, and when I was discussing with my son today, even if they eliminate the cash money and move towards a completely centralized digital form of currency, that's not going to eliminate people's need and desire to want to trade and barter with each other. That's never going to go away. But then you see the agenda come into play where they want to control what the farmers are doing, because food is one of the commodities that, is the most lucrative, because everybody eats, everybody needs food. It's a commodity that they want to get their hands on and monopolize like everything else, because, you control the food, you control the people. It's all connected together. It all makes sense when you look at the bigger picture. Reverse ATMs, though, is such a weird concept. Pastor Artur Palowsky has been found guilty for violating Alberta's Critical Infrastructure Defense Act for giving a passionate sermon at a Canada-US border crossing during the Freedom Convoy. I don't remember that one. Pastor Artur is the first person charged and now convicted under the piece of provincial legislation. That's it. It's an abrupt ending to that one, but so he actually got convicted of this for violating Alberta's Critical Infrastructure Defense Act for giving a passionate. What is the crime? What crime was he charged with? I don't understand. You violate an act, and they did refer to him as a person, so obviously that's why the charge is stuck, but what have you done, Pastor? I don't understand that one. Let's move on. A Canadian police officer who donated $50 to the Freedom Convoy was told by an educator he must work 80 unpaid hours as punishment for $50. Constable Michael Briscoe of the Windsor Police Service, in a penalty hearing, was given his sentence by retired OPP Superintendent Maurice Elbers, who claimed the donation was a serious violation and that the hours will be worked on vacation or rest days. That's sad. It's more than upsetting. That's just sad. Like, this guy, $50. $50, and you're going to make him work on his days off. Anyway, I won't get into it because I have my own feelings on cops and certainly the OPP, but $50? Come on. If that is a crime, which it's not, for donating to whatever you want to donate to, come on, the punishment has to match the crime. In this case, there really was no crime. So 80 unpaid hours for $50? What the hell? And then you have literally people quite literally getting away with murder. And they're worried about this guy donating $50 to a Freedom Convoy. Some people they're making examples out of, and it's clear, right? But don't forget, out of these, there's been, I don't know, a dozen people here that have been reamed, but there's thousands and millions of us who had to act based on our conscience, and we're fine. So despite the fact that they are making examples out of people, they're usually trying to make examples out of their own employees, essentially, because they want to make sure that that doesn't happen internally. They can't control what goes on outside their organization, though. Trudeau claims he never forced anyone to get vaccinated. All the incentives there were to encourage Canadians. Encourage? Coerce is another way of saying it. In a video posted to Twitter on Trudeau giving a talk to students at the University of Ottawa, he claimed, "While not forcing anyone to get vaccinated, I chose to make sure that all the incentives and all of the protections were there to encourage Canadians to get vaccinated." But back in October 2021, Trudeau encouraged people by saying, "Proof of vaccination will be required by no later than the end of this month for all federal employees." 2 months prior, Trudeau announced that vaccination is required to travel by plane or train for all Canadians. And we saw, I don't know if it was in this one, right, the good news tidbits, but they're just now allowing people to fly in without vaccination, without proof of injection. Just now, June 2023. Nice try, but like the classic political scumbag that he is, he's talking out of two parts of his mouth at the same time, saying two different things. Classic. All right, we got 4 or 5 to go. Despite only being in phase 1 of their clinical trial, the UK government has already committed to a £1 billion deal with Moderna to buy their mRNA vaccines for flu and other respiratory viruses. So clearly, the UK government has not only learned nothing from what we've been through, but they're just perpetuating it. We're keeping it going. They see a lucrative opportunity there, right? at the hand of people's health. All right, let's keep going. A preprint study titled COVID-19 Vaccines, the Impact on Pregnancy Outcomes and Menstrual Functions by maternal fetal medicine expert Dr. James Thorpe finds a 27-fold higher risk of miscarriage, 27-fold, and a more than twofold increase of adverse fetal outcomes across 6 different categories following COVID-19 shots. The study notes that the COVID-19 shot contents are biodistributed into the bloodstream within hours and cross all physiological barriers, including the maternal placental fetal barrier and the blood-brain barrier in both the mother and the fetus. Why on earth would this thing need to cross the blood-brain barrier and more so the maternal placental fetal barrier? Think about that one. Why would they want it crossing those barriers where they're very careful normally in the pharmaceutical industry of what they allow to cross those barriers, because there's huge implications, obviously. Just think about that one. That's some serious evidence right there. There's more. These findings are in line with what was seen in multiple European countries with their birth rates falling significantly at the end of 2021, less than 9 months after COVID-19 shots became widely utilized. So, I mean, pretty obvious what's going on there. You don't have to think too hard about that one. 3 more to go. U.S. Senate holds hearing titled Oversight of AI to find ways to get AI chatbots such as ChatGPT to stop spewing misinformation. It's like the AI is actually sentient and they're saying, stop spewing misinformation, ChatGPT. But yeah, the concern is just so reversed, so backwards. 2 more to go. Study published to iScience titled Randomized Clinical Trials of COVID-19 Vaccines, Ben et al., finds that across all randomized clinical trials with long blinded follow-ups, mRNA vaccines had no effect on overall mortality. Randomized clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccines finds that across all randomized clinical trials with long blinded follow-ups, mRNA vaccines had no effect on overall mortality. There's 2 different ways of looking at that one. This way, that way. That either way, it doesn't make sense. And here's the last one. China has asked parents to report their children to the police if they use Telegram or WhatsApp, because these apps could help facilitate the organization of protests. Okay, obviously. Telegram and other encrypted messaging apps played a crucial role in the organization of multiple protests against the country's zero COVID policy. Some of the largest protests recorded in the country since the Tiananmen Square demonstrations of 1989. Yeah, I mean, good luck getting away with that anywhere else. But in China, being that they have that one app, I forget what it's called, that does everything. You do your banking through it, you do your shopping, it's your social media, it's everything. And it's controlled by the government. So that's in line with that. Of course, they don't want people using encrypted messaging apps like Telegram and WhatsApp, although WhatsApp's owned by Facebook. So I don't know about that, but they're really going to come down on anybody who's not using their one app for everything. So battery died on the camera, so I'm just going to finish it up here. We're done. The Absurdity Observer for June. No, that was it. Thanks for watching. Hope you appreciated it. And tune in next time when we're going to do the July edition. There's going to be lots of other videos coming up on the channel as well, so tune in for those. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be well. Take care. See you next time. And remember, do no harm, but take no shit. in a penalty hearing was given, freaking mosquitoes, was given